All right, so I'm using dodge and burn to kind of turn the lighting around on that side of the face, and that works well. Now all of that feels very consistent. Now I can clean up the edges around the body here. So I have auto select layer turned on, so I just hold down command even though I'm on the eraser tool, and I'll get to this layer. I'm on the burn tool rather. I want to go to a 100% opacity. And erase away from here. But it's probably too soft, even though it's fur. Well, let's see. Maybe I can just do it with the eraser tool at 100% opacity. With the gray behind, you'll see I have to cut into the fur, but I have to be careful not to go too deep. I don't want to leave any vestige of that background behind the fur. Otherwise, it basically amounts to an outline that when we bring our character into a different environment will be very annoying. A little bit sharper. All right. Now, as I continue, I've matched these colors, right? But I can do more with a low opacity eraser. To merge those textures in the neck. Uh-oh. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, the whiskers are part of that layer. So I want to avoid the whiskers for sure. All right, so that helps. But before I can do much else with these, I need to match their colors. So next, with the hippo leg, first play with its levels. I don't think I need to brighten it at all. Maybe deepen it a little and then limit its shadows a bit. I don't know, there's a lot of texture there, so maybe not. Maybe brighten its midtones and then limit its highlights a little bit. Yeah, that seems to help. So levels is a really powerful tool, but it can't fix the color. So that's where color balance comes in, and this is just my favorite. If you're patient with it, you just kind of see the control you have in the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows. You can really do a lot of the work. Making these elements seem like they come from the same place. And then the only thing color balance can't do is take away the intensity of the color. That's where hue saturation comes in. If you just need to take away a little intensity, you can. Now I'm able to use that low opacity eraser. And blend those much more believably. And if I need to, burn them. Dodging and burning is always an option. So for instance, if I feel like this is too bright, and it is, I can burn it down a little bit with the burn tool. And then erase from there. And it's not that I actually added more pixels, I just darkened the ones that were there, so it makes their transition a little bit more extreme. Okay, now here's the secret trick. When you have two very different textures you're trying to merge together, we use the clone stamp tool. And the way I'm going to have you use it is not within the layer itself, because then the clone stamp tool takes over pixels. So instead we're going to create a new layer. I want everyone to do this eventually, over the top of everything. And we're going to call that layer clone stamp. And we're going to mark it red, because it's a dangerous and important layer. And on that layer we're going to use the clone stamp tool, which is underneath the brush. And we're going to have it sample all layers. And we're going to use it at 100% opacity with a soft brush. And you target what you want to copy. So I'm going to target this hippo leg texture. And I'm going to paint it above. And so I was able to extend that hippo leg texture up. So if I turn that layer off, see what that does. Now I can also do it at lower than 100%. So this is like a 50% clone stamp. And that will transition it even more. So if I'm covering up a highlight, that will be very helpful. And that way I'm able to bring that texture in. Now it's on a layer on top of everything else. So because of that, we can erase from it, we can adjust it, and we can move our target as we need to. So as I erase, I'm not erasing from my content layers, I'm erasing from my clone stamp layer and adjusting and refining. And that way we can get much more subtlety, much more control. Again, it's a perfectionist enabler. Okay, next. The tail. I've got to get its color right, just like I did with the foot. Start with levels. Start with the mid-tone slider. Now we play with color balance. Want more red. Big difference there. Okay, now let's see if hue saturation. I want it more saturated. No, not really. Less saturated, maybe a tiny bit less saturated. Now I can worry about cutting this out. It's a bit smoother, so I might try just doing it with the lasso. And then going in and touching it up by hand where needed. This is part of a flipper here I want to keep. It's very sandy, but I'm just going to call that extra texture. Let's see how that works. So it's not too sharp. I'm going to refine that edge. And then delete away. You see that slight bit of feathering. And it did a good job some places. I'm going to have to clean it up again by hand. And for layers I missed behind. I want any bit of that background coming through. I'm just using spacebar to give me the hand tool to kind of drag the file back and forth. Now this will be my last demo today. And ideally where we want to be before next class, because we'll turn this in halfway through next class, is I want to have all my major components connected and put together and color balanced and adjusted. And then next class, I'm going to use that killer whale texture and more of clone stamp to kind of tie everything together. It's like a texture fill, but on a creature. This is a pretty good job. It might be a little too soft, so that's why I'm using my slightly harder edged eraser for the bottom of my creature here. And around the flippers. And then dodging and burning can always help too on the edges. Decide how much sand I want to leave.